All right, welcome everybody. This is our Borough Council Workshop meeting for November 5th, 2025. We'll start with our call to order and roll call.
President Ferguson,
Here.
Vice President Gerard,
Here.
Councilmember Burns,
Here.
Councilmember Fagan,
Here.
Councilmember White,
Here.
Mayor Gerard,
Here.
Junior Councilperson Shiana DePola,
Here.
Borough Manager Snyder,
Here.
Borough Solicitor Harper.
Here.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Glad to see some turnout today. So obviously we're going to have an interesting topic to talk about. So, all right, we'll start with our item number one, approval of our meeting agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for the November 5th, 2025 workshop meeting?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Burns, second from Councilwoman Weiss. Any questions, changes, or amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Item two, public input. If there's anyone from the public who would like to address council, we ask you to please rise, step up to the podium, make sure the green light is on, state your name and address and reason for addressing council. All right. Having none, we'll go to item three, the announcements.
Next council meeting, November 19th, regular meeting at 7 p.m. in council chambers. The 2026 budget and projects meeting will be held November 12th at 7 p.m. in council chambers. Planning Commission is scheduled to meet on Monday, November 17th at 6 p.m. in council chambers. Borough is scheduled to meet Wednesday, November 19th at 8 a.m. in council chambers. The Hatfield Museum Historical Society is scheduled to meet on Tuesday, November 18th at 7 p.m. at the Hatfield Borough office. Libertyville Trail Cleanup is scheduled for Saturday, November 8th at 9 a.m. The Hatfield Borough offices will be closed on Tuesday, November 11th in observance of the Veterans Day holiday, and Thursday and Friday, November 27th and 28th in observance of the Thanksgiving Day holiday. The borough offices will be opening at 1 p.m. on Thursday, November 20th for employee training, and leaf bag collections started Monday, October 27th and will continue every Monday through December 1st.
Sorry, Madam Manager. Do you mean it'll be closed at 1 p.m. on Thursday, the 20th, for training?
No, we have first aid and CPR training for all staff starting at 8 a.m. So it's a 4+ hour training. So we'll open when it's.
Oh, so it's opening late. I
Yes.
get it. I'm sorry. Apologies for that. All right, any questions? All right, if not, we'll go on to item 4, our partnership for transportation.
Thank you, Council. It's great to see everybody again.
Yeah.
I'm Jackie. I'm the Executive Director of Partnership for Transportation, a local non-profit here, and we're delighted to have been on this project with the Borough and Hatfield Township for the past 18 months to provide more driverless project. Just a quick refresher. This is a project that's funded through the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission through their Travel Options Program. It's a competitive grant issued for 2 years. The goal of this project is to promote and support installation of new bike infrastructure in the municipalities and encourage people to cycle, more people to cycle more often. The project started back in July 2024, and it will sunset in June 2026, if not a little sooner, because we've made some fantastic progress in the past year and a half already. We've already seen new bike lanes and sharrows installed on Thursline Road and Elroy Road, and now that the 309 connector side path is open and 309 connector road is open, those bike infrastructure is connecting right into that new side path, which will eventually become part of the Libertyville Trail. So this is really exciting. You know, we're kind of building out a lot of this on-road infrastructure mile by mile. And also within the this period, you may recall we last came to you and talked about the bike audits that happened, which was thanks to an additional grant through AARP and their community challenge. So things are progressing really, really well on this project. I was a little remiss. My colleague Lucas, who's mentioned in the agenda, is actually joining us online. So he'll speak in a moment. So throughout the project, community input is absolutely critical. And at all stages, we've been inviting people to be involved and to engage with the project. And one of the ways that we've done that is through an advisory group that's been held online on a monthly basis. And people here, Larry, Katie, I've been involved in several meetings, and thank you for participating. So is Adam, the guy from the Planning Commission who works with the borough. So that's been great. We've also had community members attend too. And in fact, over the course of the project, we've had 30 individuals involved just in the advisory group, which we think is really great. You know, it has some really valuable input and commentary. So that just kind of is setting the context of where we're getting to now. And Lucas is going to talk about the surveys that have been opened and the results from surveys that we've held as part of the project. So first, we're going to take a quick reminder look at a map that you may have seen already or may not in this slide. And Lucas, do you want to just talk us through the slide, please?
Yeah, testing. How do I sound?
Good.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the draft bicycle infrastructure map that was included as part of our survey. So we have the red lines denoting the bike lanes and sharrows that already exist on Durstein and Elroy roads in Hatfield Township. The green lines are current or future trails, so showing the extent of the Liberty Bell Trail once it's finished, as well as some of the local trails and the Chestnut Street Trail, Fixed Trail, etc. And then our blue lines are our proposed bike network, and that'll be using signage and sharrows denoting low stress neighborhood streets that still have connectivity through Hatfield to guide cyclists through Hatfield while avoiding busy major roads. And then our bicycle symbols denote other bicycle infrastructure locations being fix-it stations and bike racks. So in the borough, we have some locations at Heritage Park, Borough Hall, and at the Liberty Bell Trail near the Trolley Stop Deli as far as locations for bicycle infrastructure that we included in the survey. So how we collected feedback on our survey. The survey was promoted to members of our project advisory group at our monthly meetings. Survey flyer with QR code was created and shared on social media and featured in e-newsletters. And the flyer was posted multiple times on Borough and Township social media. So thank you to the Borough and Township. And we also had a QR code to the survey, and paper copies of the survey were displayed at Hatfield Borough Fall Fest on September 13th and Hatfield Township Rocktoberfest on October 4th. Then we have some photos of Fall Fest and Rocktoberfest showcasing the feedback that we got. We also did our bicycle trivia wheel, where if the attendees had children, the children could answer a trivia question about bicycle safety to get some of our cool bicycle and transit themed stickers. And at Fall Fest, that was Brad and our volunteer Jerry. And then at Rocktoberfest, it was me and Jerry. And while Brad dropped off our tent and other materials, both me and Jerry cycled to the Rocktoberfest. I did so from the Fortuna train station and then utilized some of the streets in our bicycle plan for Hatfield to get to School Road Park in the township. So for the contents of the survey, so the survey was to get feedback to guide both grant implementation for infrastructure location as well as some naming questions. So we asked people whether the proposed bike network should be called bike routes or greenways. And sorry, going back a bit, just talk about the total responses before we get to the details of responses. We had 33 total responses to the survey. Including one response in Spanish. The survey was translated into Spanish and was made available on social media and at all of our events. And so the results of the survey were 15 for bike routes and 14 for greenways, and one response for in the other section. And then we also asked if the bicycle network should be named after just Hatfield or if we should call it North Penn in the hopes of expanding the network in future to connect to neighboring municipalities. And North Penn won that vote with 18 votes to 12 for just Hatfield. And then we have some of the feedback we got about the infrastructure location map on the next slide. So mostly positive, some people with some concerns or some additional suggestions. So we're really happy to see some good feedback about the proposed infrastructure locations.
We skip back a couple of, I think we missed one slide at the beginning, it's probably my mistake. Yes, so I didn't talk about the invitation grant. So just in case people are not aware, we did draft a grant application. In fact, Lucas was the owner of that, and were awarded, the borough and the township were awarded $99,948 from the Monco 2040 implementation grant to pay for this infrastructure. It's a 80-20% match grant, but the 20% match from the municipalities can be in kind labor or volunteer time. So this is great because there's no, tax dollars, implications to actually implement this. So this is the first time we've done that kind of a technical assistance for municipalities, and we're really delighted that it was successful. Mostly in part, we believe, because of the community engagement. They want to hear what the people want, not what we think the people want. So just to kind of clarify on the funding piece. Okay. Thanks, Lucas. And now we have some more exciting news. Kind of following on from the success of this project and the projects that went before in Upper Gwynedd and Lansdale, where we did buy more drivers, we applied to the William Penn Foundation for grant funding to advance the Liberty Bell Trail. So one of the foundation's priorities is to advance the circuit trails overall in the region, and they have deep pockets. And they recently worked with Pennsylvania Environmental Council and the coalition to identify where the main gaps are in the circuit currently. So which are the highest priority trails to pursue funding for and support for. The Liberty Bell Trail southbound connection coming out of Upper Gwynedd, going down into Norristown through Worcester, East Norriton, is the #1 priority in the entire circuit trails network. So when we saw that come out in May in the strategic plan, we're like, aha, we are perfectly positioned here to try and have some role. And we went through multiple meetings and multiple on-site visits and etc. But this past, was it three weeks ago, I think we were told we were going to get the award, and it officially kicked in the 1st of November. So this is brand new news, folks. So more to come on that. Final slide. We were hopeful we were going to get the award. So our next partnership meeting on November 20th, it was already planned to focus on circuit trails. Everyone is welcome to attend. We're very thankful for the support of Hatfield Borough and all of your members. So please come as our guests if you're available to attend. It'll be at the Montgomery Township Recreation and Community Centre on November 20th. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I do have a question. Is there going to be any special signage on the roads and the trails to indicate, especially the roads, to indicate that these are trails, giving directions to people?
Yes. So the grant application covers signage off-road, the metal plate signage, and then the on-road sharrows, which is the share the road sign, so that people can follow it on road and visually coming up to it. As you know, the streets in Hatfield, the vast majority are very narrow, right? They're not wide enough to take a bike lane. So that leaves the alternative next best solution is at Sharrow on the road. And the naming convention that we put out in the survey was like, what do you want these signs to say? Do you want them to say Hatfield Bike Route, Hatfield Greenway, North Penn Bike Route, North Penn Greenway, or something else? What would make most sense? And the survey results came back saying North Penn Bike Routes, correct, Lucas? Did I get that right?
Yes.
So that's kind of, that gives us then the potential to expand this model out, into other areas of the North Penn region and hopefully beyond.
And our plan is also to include some of with the signs that were included in the budget for the grant of directional signage. So saying this way to downtown Hatfield, Borough Hall, this way to School Road Park, that sort of thing. Because personal experience and what we've heard from other cyclists is having those so you don't have to stop and pull over to check your phone to make sure you're going the right way. That sort of thing is very helpful when you're on a bike.
You couldn't just stick with the Hatfield name?
Thanks so much for your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, that was very informative. All right, if there are no questions, we'll go on to item 5, reports from our standing committees and the mayor. Budget, finance, and labor. We did meet one last time before to talk through some of the budget items, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So looking forward to the start of that conversation. So we'll then go on to planning, building, and zoning.
So we didn't have a formal meeting. We discussed amongst ourselves the changes for the rental inspection program,
Mhm.
the updates to that. And I believe we're going to talk about that tonight, right?
Bamboo.
Oh,
No,
and the
bamboo tonight.
yes.
Did we do the
We
round?
did rental inspection.
Yeah.
Got done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bamboos
Yep.
tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bamboo. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any questions? How about our public safety report?
We have not met, so I have nothing new to report.
All right. Public works and property?
We did meet on October 9th, and a large majority of the time was spent on the pond issue. We have several ideas, we're moving forward with that. And we also talked about, well, the bamboo actually took up a good part of that discussion as well, so, you know, we were talking about the pros and cons and removal versus what we settled on, so. That was the majority of the meeting was spent with bamboo and pond.
Okay.
And as far as the pond, we did talk about possibly talking with the upper Perkiomen watershed to get a little bit of insight, maybe a consultation on, you know, what our options really are realistically moving forward. And, you know, starting to get a committee together just to focus on the pond. So.
Is that something we'll pursue the committee talk for next year, I guess?
Yeah, it's gonna be an ongoing discussion, so we're
Yeah.
still pretty much just gathering information on like what our realistic options are with the pond and trying to loop in the the community around the pond to make sure they're in the loop. But it will be an ongoing, like a steering committee type of situation, specifically for people to discuss the pond options. But yeah, definitely ongoing and will continue to be a priority.
Will there be any discussion at our town hall about pond situation?
Yeah, there'll be a slide on there that will highlight kind of what we've talked about this year and what we're planning in 2026. Because we're actually budgeted and planning to do some televising this year yet for the pond. The committee decided that they would like to televise, so I'll highlight that at the meeting next week.
I see someone from the Heather Meadows Homeowners Association will attend that meeting so they can get out, find out what are our plans and report that back to the people in Heather Meadows.
Okay,
So that's what they said, they're gonna send somebody.
okay, yeah, great, yeah.
To encourage all,
Yes.
all viewpoints and as much discussion as possible, because it's definitely it's an issue that's it's gonna be with us a long time, so, and it's gonna have a large impact on the borough, so we just want it to be something that is more of a little bit more sightly than what it is now, and more of an asset to the community than what it is, so. Definitely open to, yes, as many options and people involved as possible, just to keep the conversation going and making sure, we don't overlook anything.
Any questions? If not, we'll go on to utilities.
We have not met recently, so at this point I have nothing to report.
How about Hurok?
Same thing, we have not met recently and I have nothing to report.
All right, Madam Mayor?
Just have a couple. I just have a couple of things to report on. The first thing, Manager Snyder has mentioned about the park cleanup this Saturday. So I'll invite everybody to join me at the Borough Building at 9 o'clock. We'll supply you with gloves and bags and some water and send you on your way to make the Liberty Bell Trail a nicer place. Second thing about the recycling meeting that I attended. Good news, the 2024 grant application is 19% higher in recyclables than the 2023, even though the DEP has made changes. There's an increase of about 1,400 tons in the residential recyclables and about 59 tons in the commercials. So I don't know if it's so much that more things are being recycled or the information is being captured better and the classification is the correct classification. On the downside, there still is no direct response from the DEP about the multi-municipals application, such as the Recycling Commission. And what they're trying to do, what the DEP seems to want to do, is to, even though applications are filed for a number of municipalities, they want to sort of break that down, the tonnage, and just award each municipality, which sort of defeats the purpose of having the commission. So it's reached a point where our grant consultant feels it's time that we reach out to our elected officials. So our solicitor will prepare either a letter or possibly a resolution that the municipalities can adapt and send to our elected officials. So as soon as I have information on that, I'll share it with you. That's all I have.
All right. Any questions for the mayor? All right, if not, we'll go on to item 6, our reports and correspondence. We'll start with a monthly investment.
Monthly investment report and cash accounts report through September is included in your packets. Always highlight the total income and disbursements for the year. So we have a gain of 83,467. If you look at the disbursements, that's like the money that's going into our Harleysville account, kind of like our little nest egg that we have that's coming off our investments. So things are looking good for us for Key Bank. And then when we move forward to investment tracking through September, the bonds that we have, the 6-month and the 24-month seem to be tracking positive. So everything looks good on that end. We will continue to watch that through the end of the year. And if we need to make any adjustments, especially for one coming up in January and March of next year, Budget, Finance, and Labor will make those adjustments. Or recommend those adjustments.
All right, any questions? If not, we'll go to EIT and LST.
Year to date for EIT, we're at 459,052. In 2024, we were at 428,630. If we look through, kind of projecting through the end of the year, November seems to look real good for us. So if we got the 91,000 roughly in November and looked at the 22 in December, we would hit we would be over our target for what we're expecting to bring in 2025, and kind of looking more at what we're predicting to bring in for 2026, how we up that in the budget for next year. So we seem to be on target for that. When we look at LST year to date, we're at 39,393. Last year to date, we were at 52,59. So we're trending a little bit lower. We are projected you know, to get some revenue in November and December. We'll just have to keep an eye on that to see how that is. We did not up LST in the budget predictions for 2026. We left that very similar to 2025, just because that was trending a little bit lower than our EIT.
All right, any questions? Monthly year to date?
Monthly year to date is in your packets. As you can see, revenues received, 73.33% versus expenses used, 60.43%. So we always like when revenues exceed expenses. September also had a lot of grant funding coming back. We are in November going to be making a $1.6 million repayment to our debt. So with that, you'll see those expenses going back out. They're just not scheduled to go back out to the 25th of November. We didn't hit it for October because we were trying to work some numbers out and waiting for some reimbursements from North Penn Water Authority and some final grants. So the 1.6 is going to be paid in November towards our debt, which is going to drop the borough's debt payment moving forward in 2026 and save an overall of roughly $300,000 in the loan over the lifetime. So the grant worked out very great for us for the utility replacement project. And so only positive things right now for this report.
Any questions? All right, how about zoning hearing board applications?
There are no new zoning hearing board applications. I do know that you will be receiving a conditional use application in the near future for a proposed garage on Maple Avenue, but that did not officially come in yet.
All right. Any questions? All right, how about the Hatfield 250 committee report?
Yes, so we've got some upcoming events. I think most people are aware that Hatfield Borough, Hatfield Township, and the Hatfield Historical Museum have partnered together to put on a bunch of events between now and middle of next year, commemorating the 250th anniversary of the U.S. There is a website. If you go and you put Hatfield 250, it'll take you to that website. There's a lot of good information there. There's also a Facebook page. You put in Hatfield 250. There's a really great thing that one of the ladies from the township's doing. It's on this day in history, and it's something every single day. There's photos, there's maps, there's all kinds of stuff about it. We've been getting a lot of really great feedback on it. So if you get a chance, check that out. Some of the upcoming events, we have something, the Declaration of Independence discussion panels. There's 4 of those planned between now and the middle of next year. There is the first one in November of this year, January of 2026, March of 2026, and May of 2026. That first one will be held on November 17th from 7 to 8 p.m. at the Hatfield Township Administration Building on School Road. The event will consist of various panelists from several local historic sites around the area. One of which is our own Larry Stevens. He's going to be one of the panelists. The other panelists will include Margaret Leaker Blades from the Peter Wentz Farmstead, Molly Jobson from the Morgan Log House, and the moderator will be Emily Schneff, PhD, who is a declaration expert. This event will be discussing life in Hatfield when the Declaration was announced. So if you get a chance, turn out for that. Then some other upcoming ones on December 6th, between 4 and 9 p.m. At the Morgan Log House on Weichel Road in Lansdale. They're doing something called the Candlelight at Morgan Log House, where you get to stroll through the house lit by candlelight. I don't know if that's a great idea with a log house, but you know, and decorate it for the holidays, enjoy warm refreshments, and hear stories of winter traditions, holiday cheer, and life in centuries past. It's kind of a self-guided walkthrough type thing. That'll be open, as I said, from 4 to 9. There's also in February of 2026, we don't have the exact date yet, and the location, something called the Forbes Road Frolic. This goes back to a road that was created crossing through the mountains of Pennsylvania during the Revolutionary War. It was attacked and not finished on the western end prior to that. And a lot of places do these, what they call frolics. There'll be period music and storytelling. Most of the music is like pub style themes, like bar songs and stuff like that. So we'll announce where that's going to be. One really neat thing is February 19th. There's something called the Jeffersonian Dinner. That'll be held at the Rising Sun Inn on Allentown Road in Franconia Township. Dinner will start at 6 p.m. and it'll be followed by a visit by Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, who will discuss the current events of the day, and they'll take questions from the people that are there. This affair is a ticketed event, and tickets are limited. There's about 60 spaces in the restaurant where we're going to be that are available. The tickets must be purchased ahead of time, and the ticket sale dates will be announced in the near future. Cost is anticipated to be around $60 per person. That includes the dinner and that stuff. And one last one is Saturday, May 30th, from 10 to 3. That is the Living History Day. This is a reschedule of the date from this year. We got rained out, and a lot of the events that are taking place are people in costumes and stuff, and rain would be a great thing for that. So that was canceled, but it's going to be May 30th from 10 to 3. There'll be colonial artisans demonstrating and selling wares, along with American and British troop reenactors, also colonial songs and stories and games and events for the kids. This will be at the School Road Park in the township, and there'll be more posted as we get closer. Any questions? That's it.
All right.
Thanks.
So much good stuff. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so it's good. I should say that it's really cool how it's coming together from when we
It
first
is.
started to what we have built. I just think there's so many cool events coming up.
Surprising how many companies are donating
Yeah,
to us for this. So
yeah.
All right. How about our police department report?
Nothing further with the report. Well said today, they did put up the new sign on the police station. Police patch will be lighted. So, well, it's official now, so you actually get to see it.
And what does the sign say?
It's Hatfield, not Hatfield Township, it's Hatfield Police.
Hatfield Police.
Mhm.
So it's all.
Yep.
Yep.
Everything here.
When's the official grand opening?
The community celebrations, they're still looking to finalize a date, possibly now, towards the, middle, end of June. The big community celebration, for us to actually start moving in, possibly by the end of this month, beginning of November, or December rather. But yeah, there's still a lot of finishing work going on.
Okay. Any questions? How about our fire department report?
Yeah, sure, this month, 34 calls only. We're using new fire recording software, so the report's a little different now. If there's anything you'd like to see in the report, filter that back to Jamie, and then she can let me know, we can edit it. So we're building this report from the ground up. It just lets us do whatever we want with reports, as opposed to having to use their canned reports, which has been used enough at this point. If you want to know what calls are happening in the borough, that second from the right column, fire station, any number that starts with 57 is a borough box. So there's one in there, I think it's number 46. So yeah, one fire alarm in the borough in October. So we're a little over about 430 calls a year.
Any questions? If not, we'll go on to our EMS.
The EMS report was located in your packet, 16 municipal response calls for the month of September. Total number of calls was 1,092 for the month. I believe, per my calculations, so far this year, they've responded to 127 calls in Hatfield Borough out of the 9,707 calls they've had. That's through September. So, we roughly still trending around 1% of the calls in, our municipality.
Any questions? All right, how about our Public Works report?
So the only thing I'm really gonna highlight, obviously, was 3 outages in 1 month, 4 days apart from each other. It's kind of a rough month. The last outage we had on October 18th, I'm gonna highlight the fact that the sectionalizing fuses finally worked. It was the first test for them since they've been installed. The fault that we experienced, if it wasn't for them the entire circuit would have taken an outage. Unfortunately, still a select few homes did, but it's still better than an entire circuit. The only other item which is not in the packet and not included anywhere is we did finally receive the payment or the bill, I'll say, from Hatfield Township for the paving, which was a joint project between Hatfield Borough and Hatfield Township. This will be, correct me if I'm wrong, a discussion item and action item at the regular meeting in 2 weeks.
All right, any questions for Steve? All right, if not, we'll go on to our engineering report.
Chad's report was included in your packets. I'll highlight his subdivision and land development. Bennett's Court, got ADA as-built plans have been approved. We're currently awaiting additional information for stormwater basins and utility as-built plans. Once we have those, we can start releasing the final escrow for them. They'll have probably some type of maintenance bond, but we'll work through that process. Hatfield Walk, construction, as you can see, is ongoing. Foundations are built. You can see structures are built. He expects to have most of the site work done by December and final paving by 2026. Most of the construction done by the second week in December. As we always talk about, he just wants to be inside over the winter and be able to work. So it seems to be moving forward. Haven't had any complaints about it. To knowledge, we've had to go out there a few times and clean up a little bit of stuff. But other than that, project's moving great, moving forward. 43 Roosevelt, sanitary sewer connections for units 1 through 3 have been completed, and the sanitary lateral for the previous dwelling has been abandoned, and the new lateral for unit 4 will be connected in the next week or so. And we will be discussing Edinburgh Square later in the meeting.
Any questions? If not, we'll go on to zoning officer, building code, property maintenance report.
Bob's report was included in your packets, just highlighting he's continuing to work through an ongoing list of violations. He had 5 new come up this month and 1 non-traffic citation for an illegal use and occupancy.
Questions? All right, how about our fire marshal and fire safety?
Fire safety inspection report is in your packet, initiated, 88% have been initiated, and they are expected on target to be completed by mid-December. At least the initial run through everything. Doesn't mean everybody will pass, but everyone will at least have 1 inspection by the end of, he said mid-December, by the end of December.
Any questions? How about the pool advisory report?
There was no report included in your packets,
All
unless
right.
Mr. Wilcox has something to say.
We're discussing rates for next year. We've reviewed the comments, which were mostly positive. Township has done a lot to communicate better, which was a big part of the survey, but yeah.
How about the junior council person report?
The only report I have is that I was happy to meet with Councilman Burns and Mayor Gerard right before the meeting to talk about the ordinance number 559 from, I believe it was last meeting. It was a little confusing for me, so I just wanted to make sure I understood it fully, and you guys did a great job explaining it to me, so I appreciate that.
All right, any other questions? If not, we'll go on to item 7, our manager report.
Our report was included in your packets. I will highlight, under my land use and development, 200 North Main Street, the Biblical Seminary. So, it's kind of stood stagnant for several years now since they got zoning. I did hear from Alliance Housing, and they believe they will be funded for that project this year. So it looks like that project is at some point going to move forward. And that is, 2 units, multiple apartments in Hatfield Township, then refurbishing the school that's there, and that is in Hatfield Borough. Previously, when he first came in, he talked about phase 1 would be taking on the school, and that would be refurbished. They would get that going, and then they would build the other 2 units. He thinks that's gonna flip-flop, that they're gonna build the 2 buildings in Hatfield Township first, then revitalize the old elementary school. So we're still kind of waiting to hear. I do know that they need to come back for zoning extension. I know that Kate's talked to their attorney, so we're working through that process. But I was happy to hear they got funded so the project can move forward. And they're excited and asked me to thank council for your support on the project, like over the years writing, letters and things. So they're appreciative. It's a definite need in this community, low income adult age restricted housing. There's definitely a need. So they're very supportive and wanted to say thank you. And just a couple items of interest. I sent out an email. We're going to have a MONCO 2040 grant kickoff meeting. So, Partnership for Transportation talked about the MONCO 2040 grant that we received. We're going to have a kickoff meeting with the commissioners on November 12th. We believe the location will be right out front of the borough office because we're trying to think of a location where a bike station or a bike rack is going to be that also connects to Hatfield Township, which is Chestnut Street Trail. So Aaron and I are trying to work out those details. He thought it was fine out front of the borough office. And then if the weather doesn't work out, we can just move it inside. So we'll be looking to have that. If you did not respond, you're interested in attending, let me know. If you're interested in speaking at the event, let me know so I can let the county know. And the Montgomery County Boroughs Association dinner invitation for December 4th is in your packets. If you're interested in attending, please let me know.
All right. Any questions? All right, if not, we'll go on to item 8, new business and discussion items. Item A is the 2026 preliminary draft budget discussion. So just to give some details. So today we'll do a very highlight discussion of it. We can have more detailed discussion on the 12th. I figured that'll be when everyone gets a chance to look at it in detail. Obviously tonight we'll still talk through any questions anyone has, but the intention is really to look at it more at a high level. For multiple reasons. One, just so that everyone can get acclimated to it, but also the budget's still in flux. So we are still working on some things that will reduce the cost, that could reduce some of the revenue enhancements that we have in there. So again, it's important to point out that the budget still is in flux and this isn't a finalized version, but this is where we stand as of today. And we want to present that to the rest of council and to the public so people can start evaluating and come back with us with questions. So what I'll do too is just highlight a few points in this. Again, I'm not going to go into excruciating detail on all of it, but want to just give a little bit of history of it, where we're at and how we got here. So this is actually version 9 of the budget. So when we say that this does go on for a while and there are lots of iterations of it, we are not exaggerating. I do want to thank Jamie and her team for all the work and effort they've put into this. There's a lot of work and effort that goes into it. So first I want to thank them for it. And to highlight a few things, as you know, we've all been talking about the electric increases because of capacity requirements. That did hit us again this year to the tune of just under $80,000. So again, residents and people who are watching need to be need to understand that this is going to continue for some time, and it will continue to impact us as it will all anyone who has electricity. So the impact wasn't as big as what it was originally estimated to be, but it's still an impact. And like you said, we know this is going to continue over time. So from some of the revenue we got increases on for the sewer EDUs. So we're still getting increased revenue from that this year going forward in the tune of the $73,000, I believe it was. But realize that last year we got a big impact from it. This year it's just continuing on what we had from last year. Excuse me, $78,000. So that did impact the numbers as well too. Jamie did talk earlier about debt payments and how our debt payments have decreased for this coming year. So that's definitely a positive on us. The police station, or the police, excuse me, we are, based on our contract, we're adding additional, we have additional expenses with them next year as well. And then after that, we'll be renegotiating the contract, I believe, in the fall for the following year. But there is a $50,000 increase for those costs that were budgeted several years ago. So one thing you'll see in there are pole replacements. As you guys know, we've been taking an aggressive, I wouldn't say aggressive, but a proactive response to replace poles in the borough. We want to make sure that accidents aren't happening. We did some evaluations, if you remember recently. We had a company come in, evaluate poles. They designated a bunch of poles in the borough that are out of date and could have failures. And so we've been allocating money for the past 2 years to manage that. Steve, and to his credit, I'm going to give him credit, which he knows I don't do that all the time, but I will give him credit that he did research a grant within the state, I believe it is. And so we did budget some more money for that this year because we have to have money in our budget to fund it if we get the grant. So it looks like if we get the grant, we would owe $136,000 of that. And so it's about twice as much as we paid in poles last year. But the great advantage of that is that we would not have to have pole replacement in our budget for the next 5 to 7 years, I think it was. So it does save money in the long run, although it would be a bigger hit for us next year as well too. So again, that money is going to be pending, and if we don't get the grant or something happens, we'll readjust the budget there as well too. So also wanted to highlight when we first started, we were around $140,000 in the red, and so we've been able to get that down significantly. The negative side of that is we do have some revenue increases with some fees that are about $93,000. We are proposing a $250,000 increase in our taxes, which gives us about another $35,000. And we also did make some adjustments to the EIT, as Jamie mentioned earlier. That does give us about another $25,000. So after all those numbers, just in summary, our plan based on this budget is to pull about $180,000 out of our reserve and savings. We have that. We did the same thing this past year. Obviously, we don't want to do that forever, but the intention of doing that is to balance out all of these cost increase so we're not hitting the residents with any large bill at any one time. So because we are fortunate, because we have the reserve, we have that opportunity to kind of level out these increases. And so the intention is with this budget is to pull out 180,000. Now, some of the things that I mentioned that might be additional revenue or decreases in expenses, obviously that means we pull less out of that $180,000 out of reserve would be the intention. So I think that covers everything I was going to mention. So I will open it up to council and anyone who has questions. One thing to highlight that I didn't mention was with the fees and revenue increases, it equates to about $11 a month for the residents. So it's not a huge increase, but it is an increase, and we don't like them. But again, like I said, we're trying to keep those at a minimum for the residents. So. Wow. All right. Well, if there are no discussions, if everyone has anything that they think of before the end of the meeting, just let us know and we'll have a conversation. Otherwise, we'll plan on having some more detailed final conversations on the 12th during our town hall. And again, if anyone online or anyone has questions, please don't hesitate to feed them into the management of the borough, and then we can be prepared to discuss them. All right. Having said that, we'll go to item B, the train station lease agreement.
In your packets was included a draft lease agreement that Budget Finance and Labor, along with the solicitor, has worked through with an interested tenant, Sobek Designs LLC. They would like to lease the train station and call it the Station at Market. They're interested in doing, you know, coffee, baked goods, some like vendor sales, artisan shop. There'll be like remote work locations in there, children's activities, and eventually expand it to the pole barn area where they're interested in hosting, like renting out the pole barn for birthday parties or events, baby showers, that type of thing. So this lease agreement is very similar to the lease agreement that Borough Council saw when we were talking with Bard and Jester at the brewery that was going in here. The only things that changed was the rent. They're looking for 6 months of rent credits because they're going to do some upgrades to the building. And they're looking for a stable rent over the next 5 years. So all those proposals are included in this lease agreement. At the end of the day, the borough still would be able, with getting the rent at the 2,800, would still be able to cover SEPTA moving forward and still have a little bit of I don't want to call it a profit, but we'll be able to have a reserve account to make improvements on that building. So if a roof would need to be replaced over the next several years, the money that is coming from the lease of this is going to go into an account where we can make those capital improvement projects for the building. If it would need a roof or something significant that would not be covered under this lease agreement, the potential tenant has looked at the lease agreement, has okay with it. They just have 2 questions that Budget Finance and Labor spoke about, but would like council to consider. And that is kind of outlining what the responsibilities are for the major repairs. So who would be responsible for electric, plumbing, roof, HVAC, those type of things. I'll just define it a little bit more in this lease agreement. And also they would like to, after they put the money into the building and the building upgrades, they would like to then move on to the pole barn. So they were wanted to know if they took a large amount of money and put it into the pole barn, if in the future Borough Council would consider any type of credit for that off of their like monthly rent. Like would Borough Council be able to give them some credit because they put a significant X amount of dollars into rehabbing the pole barn? So those were just 2 questions that were outside of this lease agreement. Other than that, it's up for discussion for Borough Council to consider. And our goal would be to discuss it tonight, make any changes, implement, adopt it in November, and then we can have a tenant in there as of December 1st. And hope to have them open. That is another question in this lease. It has an X you can see of when you would like them to have it open by. Like no later than May 31st, if that's when the rent credits go out. It's whatever Borough Council decides. So there's some questions you have to discuss.
Right, so Jamie and I actually disagreed on one thing, that's why we want you to discuss it, okay? The changes I made to the lease, and this is the lease we've used before, and don't forget, we have to get SEPTA to agree with us. Okay, and we are getting free rent from SEPTA ourselves for a period of time, I think for the whole 6 months, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, more than that.
Next year.
Yeah. So
We do owe them money next year though.
right, so you know that, it's not like we're just giving it away. Jamie, who had the dealings with the tenant, felt that the 6 months free rent would give them time to rehab the station building and get it into service. And I don't have any problem with that. I thought that I don't want to see them just sit there for 6 months and then, you know, just use the time with the free rent and do nothing.
So I had suggested to her, okay, great, they can have 6 months free rent, but they really ought to open the store by a date certain. And then we weren't sure what you guys thought and whether you thought that they should open the store by the end of the 6 months, 5 months into it, 4 months into it, whatever. She thinks that they're looking for 6 months to get it together. Okay, so I'm just gonna tell you that. My only worry was that I don't want them to take possession of the building and tie it up and then never open, you know? And Jamie's probably got a better handle on whether that's a possibility with these people. I do have to say one thing. I also recommended that they sign it personally, and apparently they've agreed to that. Not just in the name of their LLC, which to my knowledge has no assets. Okay, so we don't want to be in a situation where we have a tenant not paying rent when the rent is due, and we have no way to go after them. So, but they're willing to sign it, so I think that's a good sign that they're interested in the building and that they are willing to work it through. So what do you think? You want to give us some direction so that you can negotiate with them? She thought give them 6 months to get it open. I'm fine with that if you're fine with that. I just don't want to have any issues with them keeping the building off the market.
Yeah, I think my thought process was December is going to be a wash because of the holidays. They also want to sell food there, which means they need a permit through the Board of Health, which takes time, a certificate of occupancy permit. They need to make a lot of ADA requirement updates to the building. I'm sure Borough is doing some work to the building as well, but they're taking on a significant upgrades. And I think their sentiment view is they just didn't want the pressure of having to open the doors to get the revenue in to pay. I think they're going to open before the 6 months because they're going to have it done. And of course they want revenue coming in when they're not having to pay rent. So they're incentivized anyway to open because the sooner they open, they're getting revenue in their pockets and they're not paying expenses out the door. So they are also very local. So I'm not concerned that they will not open it. This is a tenant that since day one has wanted this location and it's their dream. We kind of just all chose to go in a different direction at the beginning with the brewery. But it's back, it's in front of you, and I don't have any hesitation about them not opening. But it could be 6 months. It could be
they would open in 6 months.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm fine with that if you are fine with that.
Madam Solicitor, so is your concern that they would not open for 6 months and then something would happen and then we basically lost 6 months of having it on the market? Is that what, is there a way to write it up in such a way that if for some reason they don't open up or they're not open up for a certain period of time, that we could get that 6 months of free rent paid? So again, we're giving them as a condition,
Yeah.
right? And then if they don't open up,
They don't
Yeah.
open it,
They lose the whatever months are left.
yeah, after a failure to open to operate as a default of the agreement. So they would be
They'd be in
responsible
breach.
for everything
okay.
if they don't open.
Right.
I know Larry.
Kick them out,
Yeah.
but we'd still have lost 6 months or however many months you give.
So
Yeah.
do they have a contractor or somebody lined up to do the stuff that they need to do?
They have both. So one of the owners is a contractor, a general contractor. That's his job, and he does those things. They will also sub some things out. So they do have both.
Okay.
Yes.
Do they have some kind of a schedule for this work? That shows us that, yeah, we could do this in 6 months, no problem.
Yeah, I do know, they've verbally talked to Steve and I about their schedule, not written on paper that like windows today,
Right.
numbers tomorrow, but they have verbally said how they wanted to progress through it because they were actually concerned that we would hold them up. Because we were doing, God bless you, because we were doing, some work in the building and they were like, well, are you guys gonna hold us up? Because if we get credits, we don't want to be waiting on you. We want to be in and going. And Steven and I said, no, we can work around each other and or our stuff would be completed. Like the basement demo was completed last month. Like those type of items that we're responsible for because we're not the owner, but in a sense, the landlord. Yeah.
So that contractor that they have besides him, the other one, can we see if they have some kind of a schedule? Because usually, like when I've had work done, they've said, okay, we're gonna do this, and we're doing this, and then we're doing this, and we'll be done by this date.
Sure, I can ask them
Yeah,
for,
just-
I can ask them for a timeline.
That would give us like a warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, I can ask them for a timeline. they verbally had talked about how they're gonna progress, so I don't think she'll have any problem putting it in writing. Here's my estimated goal.
Yeah.
And it might be open in March, right? I don't know. Yeah.
I'd say if they're willing to sign personally and are local, I'd be willing to give them the 6 months to get it to open. You know, that at the time I reviewed the lease, we only had the LLC on the hook. I didn't think that they had any assets we could go after. They breached.
But do we need to specify 6 months if we already have it in the contract to get recovery for those
Well, we have,
months of?
there's a blank on
Just,
page 3.
yeah.
If they're not in operation no later than blank, a failure to open and operate is a default. So theoretically, you'd call the lease in breach and kick them out. And go back to the market for somebody who could get the job done, you know? So that's really the question, you know, and like I said, when I thought of it, I only had the LLC on the hook and I had not dealt personally with these tenants, and that Jamie has.
Is that 6 months from December 1st?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just thinking
Yeah.
say we sign it, like they would have to have, like they sign it and then, you know, if we did that in November, it's a couple weeks and then as December 1st, it's for you.
One other question, if, during the process of doing the, interior renovation and addition, whatever work they're going to do, if they run into a small or major problem, structural or something, who's going to be responsible for any additional costs in case something like that happens?
That's one of their questions.
Yeah.
In general,
Yeah.
we should be responsible, it seems to me, for structural issues.
Like you
And-
said.
Yeah, yeah.
Structural plumbing and electricity,
Yeah.
but not, you know, you clog the toilet, that's on you. Yeah, kind of.
So,
Well, for example, if they, let's say, cut into a plumbing line and there was flood damage. Okay, during their renovation, they were actually doing renovation,
Yeah.
say, putting a wall or something like that. And, you know, accidentally they go in and they cut a pipe, and there's water flowing. Who's responsible for that?
That's a good
Did-
question. I don't know that the lease is specific with respect to that, and it's probably a good idea if we did put something in. Because if their construction damages the building we're responsible for, SEPTA has no responsibility, so everywhere in this lease, it says it's on the borough and not SEPTA.
Wouldn't the contractor have insurance?
Yeah,
Something like that, you know, if you, you know.
And they have to have insurance.
Yeah.
And have us as a.
Steve, when you guys were doing all the work that you guys have done, did you see anything that kind of gave you the, or are you pretty comfortable with?
I'm very comfortable with the structural integrity of the
of
building.
the-
Yeah.
So from a renovation standpoint, one of the things, and we wanted to present this council, one of the things we talked about doing is, because again, they've talked about possibly upgrading the pole barn and, you know, would they get tax or would they get some credits for that in the future? So we thought of putting some sort of statement in there that says, you know, any renovations have to be approved. And if the renovation adds some value to the facility, that we would negotiate that, but this contract is separate from any of those agreements that have to be worked out at a later date. So, but I think to your point too, when you talk about the construction, obviously if the contractor damages something, they're liable for that. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Right. The other thing that was a question of was, you know, from a servicing standpoint, if we need to service HVAC units or anything like that, or toilets or clogged toilets, who's responsible? So we were kind of talking with Steve about, you know, do we want to set up an agreement that says, you know, we would define anything that needs regular maintenance and say they would be responsible for that, and anything else that, any other repairs that are generated due to their use of the facility, something of that nature.
What about if we put something like a dollar amount? You know, anything under $500, you're responsible. Just for.
No, we talked about that, and so, you know, because Rich brought that up as a good idea too. The only thing I have concern about that is what if they damage something that's below that dollar amount, right? then technically we'd be liable or we would be responsible because, so let's say they dig into a wall, right? And it generates $5,000 worth of work and it doesn't meet the $10,000 threshold we gave them. Now we're responsible for that $5,000 if we put a dollar amount. So, you know,
Can you write it up that to cover us? And I see what you're saying.
yeah.
In that case,
I think he was saying the opposite. He was saying they're responsible up to 5,000. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
I
But I-
think
you know,
the
I've
way you
picked
write
a
it
number.
is,
Yeah.
they'd be responsible up to X.
Right. Well, so it's the same thing, right? So if they're responsible up to 5 and they generate 10 grand in damage,
Right.
now we're paying for that, right? So.
right,
So that's why I think if we specify, something to the effect of, we have to prove the renovations, but
That's
any
it.
damage that they do is their responsibility. And the only thing really is then some sort of service agreement if we need to do maintenance on the HVAC unit or something
Well,
because we want to make sure that service is being done to keep the life of that kind of equipment, because we're going to be responsible in the long run.
yeah, if you think about it,
saying they're
If you-
responsible for maintenance. We mainly talk about outside maintenance, but,
Yeah.
maintenance,
lawn.
to me, the HVAC system is on that.
We could call it maintenance as well too, yeah.
Yeah,
And then I think for us, anything structural, like we talked about the building,
Right.
the roof, that's gonna be ours.
is that
So,
normal? Because you think about if you rent a house and, the landlord sends somebody in to service your furnace, once a year or twice a year, because it's the systems,
where you
or if the
can,
hot water heater goes bad, the landlord's responsible.
you can agree to anything.
Yeah,
You can agree that they'll do that, or you can agree that you're responsible for all that, all the household expenses, all the things. This is a commercial establishment, so they're gonna be using the HVAC more, it seems to me,
but
than,
then, yeah.
than a house would, or something like that.
I think Steve did talk about the system that we were installing there and the mini split, and it was different than like you and I having an oil furnace at our house. It didn't need as much like tuning or maintenance. Yeah, I think we used Diane. I know Diane has one.
Yeah.
I don't have that, but it was just something a little different. But he said that's the system we're
Yeah,
putting
yeah,
in.
they're relatively maintenance free and all this.
Yeah, but that's just that.
Okay.
So the other thing is the borough, because you have to live with a budget,
Yeah,
we want to make sure that we don't get too many
problems.
problems like that. And,
Now,
we can guarantee structural integrity, or if God forbid that should happen, we can let them out of the lease. I mean, I think you want to be conscious of that as well.
have we already established a rent amount?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna say, just make sure we charge enough rent to cover that stuff.
Well, and that's the intent, right? So the intent is that, we're not trying to make a ton of profit on this. We're just making a little bit to cover any kind of future repairs, because we do know it's gonna need a roof within the next 5 years. And, so we're trying to have a little money, as Jamie said, to put away for that, but not intended this is a cash cow for us, so by any means. So I think if we specify the maintenance is on them, we say that we're responsible for anything structurally. And I think that should cover us. And then future renovations, we can negotiate at a different time, but they
That's
still
it.
need approval. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they come to us and they're gonna do something that's gonna be a fixture that stays with the building, which septic claims to own, okay? Just so you know, then maybe you want to, give them rent credits for doing that, improving the building.
Right. And what we talked about earlier was just, let's negotiate at the time, because we don't know it's hard to predict what they may do and what the impact would be, right? So.
Right.
Especially with that pole barn. Yeah.
So I think what I hear is we let them, as long as they're open by May 31st, right? You okay with that? Okay,
Yeah.
and that we define responsibility for repairs, meaning electric, plumbing, things to keep it operational is their responsibility. Structural repairs is our responsibility.
That's a good way to put it, to make it operational.
Right.
The other stuff would be structural and stuff. like
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
Yeah, great. with me.
all right, so then we'll just, we'll make some revisions to this and we'll have it on the agenda for the regular meeting for approval.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, good.
All right. All right, we'll go to item C now, the 2026 proposed meeting dates.
In your packets are the proposed meeting dates for 2026. The only, it's very similar to what we have now. We're still going to continue to have the town hall in May. When we look at November, we are closed on November 11th, 2026, which would be that Wednesday, where we would have like the budget meeting. So we propose to move that just to the Tuesday, the 10th, but just keeping with the same schedule of workshop meeting, budget meeting, regular meeting. The only month we really have to discuss is September. What we've been doing was having one meeting in September and then having the other meeting be just a strategic planning and kind of just continuing the one meeting a month for June, July, August, and September. Next year, PMEA conference that Steve and I attend is actually 8, 9, 10, 11. So wanted feedback to see, would it be okay if we move the strategic planning meeting up to the 2nd? Do you want to have a meeting on the 2nd and then like a workshop regular meeting on the 2nd and a strategic planning meeting on the 16th? What are you feeling? When you look at August, we will have a meeting on the 19th, basically have 1 week, and then you'd have another meeting in September. So you probably wouldn't have much to discuss to make it a regular meeting. So just kind of wanted feedback, how you want to see it move forward. If you okay moving the strategic planning and having it the 2nd, which is the first week in September, you'll get a jump start on the budget then, which is, kind of.
Yeah, I don't see any issue with that, if anyone else does.
So everything else was kind of very similar format to what we have now.
And describe May. Are those 3 council meetings or is that a typo? So
Yeah, because it's the council meeting in May 6th, the workshop meeting, it's the town hall on the 13th, and then it's the regular meeting on the 20th.
Okay.
That's normally how May and November tend up being like 3 weeks in a row. November just moved up to the 10th because we're closed for Veterans Day.
You didn't have a separate color for that, so for the town hall. So.
Oh, yeah.
No, your color coding is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm just messing.
That was Katie. I won't take credit. I'm a highlighter girl.
Just go by.
That's it, I got highlighter on here.
Just go by this past year, because
Yeah.
we had the 3 in a row and we have 3 in a row this month too, so.
So the other possibility, and I've seen my other municipalities sometimes do this, you put that meeting in September 1, even though it's a week later, and you decide at the time whether you have anything. You could actually cancel it. As long as you advertise them all at the beginning of the year, that saves you a lot of money. Okay, but you could actually cancel it. It's easier to cancel than it is to ask, just saying.
If you have any conflicts, let me know. We'll look to advertise in December. So next week we'll spell it all out how we always do, and then we'll have like the advertisement, and then we'll look to advertise in December. So if you have any vacations, conflicts, want things changed, we still have over a month. We have a month to do that.
All right, if there's no questions, we'll go on to item D, the escrow release for maintenance security for Edinburgh Square.
So Edinburgh Square is looking for their final escrow release, which is maintenance. So on October 15th, the engineer visited the site for a final inspection. They had to bring the basin up to par. They had to do some clean outs of some inlets in the area. They took care of all that. They added some landscaping. And at this time, it is the engineer's opinion that he has met all his obligations for the development and is recommending his $8,403.51 that's held by the borough be released. It was also a recommendation, which I think is a good idea for us to send the homeowners who live there notification that a basin is a basin and it's supposed to be overgrown and it's supposed to, kind of be naturalized, because we believe in the spring and summer what was happening was they were going in and cutting around the basin and they're clogging the inlets that's in there and, the mulch. And so I had said that I would be happy to send a letter
And, kindly also remind them about like, that it's a joint, they jointly own that together, some type of letter that kind of spells it out. It's when they sign their papers.
So I think we have an operation and maintenance agreement.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
We should send everything, the homeowners, when you're buying a
Have an
new
HOA?
house.
Yeah.
We have an HOA there.
No,
Okay.
we made them sign a.
But when you buy your new house, you got a million pieces of paper to look at and they might have forgotten.
Yeah.
Just saying, we should send it to them.
Yeah, send them a copy along with just tips for stormwater basin, just something to kind of we'd like it to stay the way that it is and have them understand that. And just, so hopefully we'll have a better product moving forward.
I have one question on that. Now, if I remember correctly, I thought I saw a tree in one of those spaces, which it's like, why are you planting a tree in the basin? Because those roots are gonna rot out, not unless it's a willow tree, but those roots are gonna rot out. So it doesn't make any sense.
So I think that's a question for the engineer. When the basin was planned, it was supposed to take in a certain amount of water and hold it for like 24 hours and then let it either evaporate into the air or go into the surface. And I don't think a tree would be part of that, to be honest. I've never seen a tree in a basin.
No, neither have I.
So I think we gotta ask the engineer that question.
Yep, I can ask
Okay,
Chad.
that's a good question.
Because somebody, that tree dies, let's say it doesn't even survive. But if it gets big enough and then, somewhere down the line, 5 years from now, that tree comes down and hits the house.
Right.
you know,
And
across the
this
roof.
particular basin is right near a house.
Right, it's right on, why, first of all, why would it be that close to the house? But because, I had to shoehorn everything in there. But still, I can't see the sense of putting a tree, not that type of tree.
Right, and I think the plans probably specify the type of plants that are allowed.
Yeah.
So maybe
We
we
have a
should,
design standard.
yeah, exactly, put that in the letter to them too, or if it's not in the maintenance agreement.
But this will be on for consideration for release at the November regular meeting. And in the meantime, I will get that answer from the engineer for clarification.
All right, so no other questions? We'll go on to item 9, old business. Ordinance amending chapter 10 Code of Ordinances, weeds and other vegetation to regulate bamboo.
The committee came up with a good suggestion on this bamboo ordinance. We were talking about how difficult it is to get rid of bamboo. And how expensive it can be to get rid of bamboo and how difficult, depending on where it's planted. So the committee came up and asked me if I would revise the ordinance to say it's illegal to plant it, but you don't have to take it out unless you're encroaching on your neighbor. In which case, that is a violation of the ordinance. If you let your bamboo cross your property line and go on your neighbor's property, that's a violation of the ordinance. But otherwise, if you want to have bamboo right on your own property that's already there, and we know that we do have at least 2 properties that's already there, you can just leave it. So that's what the current version of this ordinance looks like. If Borough Council is okay with it, then we should advertise it for a year.
What is the remedy if it's growing onto someone else's property? What covers that in our ordinances today?
So we looked at several from Maryland, somebody.
Jimmy,
Jimmy,
did. You got a bunch.
this stuff from the Maryland, University of Maryland extension.
Mhm.
And I looked at the Penn State one and it was identical to that one. And it gave you various ways that you could stop it from going past
Encroaching on
your-
your neighbors, yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So, they could do that. And it's a heck of a lot cheaper doing that than it is to try to get rid of all of it.
Okay.
We just felt that this is gonna be a real cost burden on some people, so.
Each property owner shall be required to take such measures as are reasonably expected to prevent any bamboo on its property from encroaching on any neighboring property. So they would get a letter from the code officer saying, hey, your neighbor's complaining your bamboo's growing onto their property. The borough has an ordinance against that. you need to either remove the bamboo at the roots, install metal sheathing so that it can't get through the property line. And prevent such growth or encroachment on your neighboring properties. You can have it on yours,
Right.
but you can't let it go on your neighbors.
Right.
So we're trying to take the.
And that would be
the
a
approach
violation.
Of we'll work with you and not make you spend all that money, but you're responsible to make sure that you follow this.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think the logic is sound. I think you guys did a good job. The logic's sound. My question is more of if it is growing onto someone else's property, what does that neighbor have as recourse, right? And that would be spelled out in our ordinances in general.
Well, their neighbor's gonna get fined.
Okay.
Okay, just like when you blow any other ordinance, cut your grass or whatever, you get a notice saying, cut your grass within 10 days or you're getting a fine. And every day is another fine.
Right.
So eventually, the code department could take somebody to, the district justice office and get a fine out of them.
So they'd be fined and they'd still be responsible for removing it on
Right.
that property. Okay.
Because it would be in violation every day that goes by.
Right. Right.
That it encroaches on their neighbor. It is a pain to get rid of bamboo, I'll tell you that, yeah. But,
No, I think the approach was sound. That way we're not mandating anyone do anything with their property. We're not telling people to go fix it right now if they have it today. So I think the approach is good.
but we are protecting the next door neighbor,
Right. Right.
so.
I don't have any issue.
One other question too, I know we sort of discussed this previously about the possible use of a herbicide to prevent the growth. And I thought that somebody was gonna be looking in to see if there was something available that was EPA approved that we could use too. Not only there, we also have a situation on the side of here of the creek.
Yeah, it says measures may include but are not limited to. It doesn't mention an herbicide, but certainly that would be an appropriate way to get rid of it, if there was an EPA approved herbicide that worked.
I don't know if we ought to maybe make that more specific. and put that in
Okay.
there.
Well, Jimmy, do you
Do we know
remember?
for sure there is one?
I know that the articles we were reading, they tried to shy away from that because of the water,
Yeah.
Especially on a waterway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
contaminating waterways. They said it's available.
So it's not preferable.
Exactly, yeah, they really tried to steer away from that.
And I would think on a waterway, it's not gonna be that effective, right? Because.
Well, also you're gonna kill the fish.
No, I got it, but I'm saying you wouldn't want to use it because it would wash away. So.
So what would it be, like trenching or putting some sort of shield?
Right.
around?
That's
Both, yeah, they talked about it and they said how far down you have to go. And you can put a barrier there.
How far down will the roots get? Just.
Was it about 3 feet? So I think it was like 3 feet.
So they're shallow.
Yeah, relatively, but they run.
Okay.
Yeah, they run like crazy.
They run horizontal.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you don't stop them, they
No.
keep going.
Yeah, they think they're nuts. Yeah, the articles were really good.
You can cut it down above ground, but unless you keep at it,
It keeps coming back.
the roots are there and they're gonna grow,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So if Borough Council's okay with this, what date should we pick for the hearing?
Yeah, we have to we'll have to make a motion at the next meeting to advertise, and it'll be at the December
Okay,
meeting.
fine, so we have,
Yeah.
Could we make the motion tonight to advertise?
If most rules are, if it's not on your agenda within 24 hours, you're violating the sunshine law.
Okay,
We can add it to the agenda
For the next one.
Yes,
Yeah, to advertise.
yes, we'll have a hearing in December.
Okay.
I would think it would probably correlate to where we are in the budget. Because if we have to have a public hearing because of any increases for the budget, we'll probably do it on the same night.
right, save a little money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, Billy, our junior council person, any question?
Madam Solicitor, I have a quick question.
Oh, sorry.
So I was reading through the ordinance, and so I looked at 10-101. And it says, vegetation won't be over 6 inches. So wouldn't that put any bamboo within the borough non-compliance?
That's
It's not explicitly saying bamboo isn't in this section.
yeah, that's the lawn section of the.
So it wouldn't,
Right, it's not meant to apply for that, because otherwise you can have bush.
Okay, no, yeah,
You know
that's
what I
why I
mean?
was, that's right,
So,
that's why I was,
yeah.
okay.
Now, that section actually gets a lot of work in the borough, as I understand it. You know, that people, if it, you have summer like we just had, where there was a drought and then a couple days of rain and everybody's grass grows and then they all get letters saying it's too hot. So that is the lawn section of the ordinance.
Okay, I just wanted
Okay?
to make sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Thank you.
Solicitors, that way it is in every municipality,
What?
but that's the most,
It's actually more a problem in boroughs. Because people are living closer
they're on
to each
top of each
other,
other.
they notice that their neighbor's grass looks terrible, okay? It is a problem in townships, but it's more of a problem in a borough, you know, because there's more lawns. Ever notice that?
Yes, I would drive my neighbor, like, great, so-and-so mowed the lawn, guess I have to.
You start hearing the motors
Yes,
running.
right, I know, I was like, oh, man,
I want to be the only one.
yeah.
But I just know that from the code enforcement report. This past summer, we had lots of these.
Yeah.
But it was lawn, not bamboo.
all right, if there are no more questions, we will go to item 10. I don't believe we have any action items. So that leaves us with our last item, number 11, which is a motion to adjourn for executive session, which we will have to discuss some property, real estate, and personnel issues. So can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
I get a motion from Councilman Weiss, second from Councilman Gerald, are you sure? All in favor? Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.